Joining us now is not a walk-on in his days, but a scholarship player, but someone who could certainly understand what this means to BYU football. Blaine Fowler, national champion quarterback. Blaine, you see that video, you see the emotion. Your son Gavin is part of the coaching staff. What does this mean to BYU football to have this deal put in place and moving forward?
Well, I think it's huge, and it shows that BYU and Kalani Sitake, they've been thinking about this name and image likeness thing for quite some time now. They've been anticipating that it was coming, and Kalani wanted to be certain that they don't just take care of the superstars. Like, I think Clemson's quarterbacks, let's face it, they're going to make $1 million a year, and the NIL thing. And Kalani was like, that's all fine and dandy. We're going to have people that are going to have opportunities to make a bunch of money, but how do we take care of the whole program within the guidelines of what's allowed here? And this is the first step in that. I love that BYU is leading out on this. As you mentioned, Jeremy, I don't know of anybody else that has announced a deal like this for walk-ons. And the impact in the long term on recruiting is, I think, way bigger than any of us can actually fathom right now. Because the way recruiting goes right now for BYU, you have your scholarship kids, right? And then there's that next group that's just right there below. You know, you're in fact, some of them you're going back and forth on whether or not you should offer them the scholarship and offer the other guy a preferred walk-on. Unfortunately, maybe that next 10 or 15 are good enough that they're going to get scholarship offers in other places. A few of them will come to BYU because that's what they've always wanted to do. And so they'll just come and play on their own time. But a bunch of those you lose. And they go other places, and then you go to that next list of walk-ons that you have, and those are the guys that run the prep team, and some of those surprise you. But the guys that you missed that you wanted to come as preferred walk-ons that go scholarships someplace else, some of those guys end up being great players and going on and playing in the National Football League. I mean, in the next week or two, I'll do a little research, and we'll come back, guys, on the show, and I'll make you a list of guys that BYU didn't get because they didn't have a scholarship for them that went elsewhere and ended up being big time. And I think we'll be surprised at some of those names. And so that changes the game in two ways. First of all, those guys that are borderline that develop and end up being great players, you get them now because there's no reason not to come. It's just as if they're on scholarship, right? And then secondly, the level of your prep teams, the teams that are getting your starters ready to play, is significantly better. When you have a great walk-on program, and now this is kind of a walk-on slash, not really a scholarship, but a walk-on slash sponsored program like nobody else in the country at this point, your team is going to be better prepared because your prep teams are going to be that much better. And so I think this thing in the long term has a huge impact. I love that BYU is leading out on this. And there were those that said, hey, this NIL thing is going to just benefit the Texases and Clemsons more than anybody else. BYU was very well positioned, and with all of the booming businesses in our market here in Utah, BYU is going to tap into that, and BYU will benefit from NIL as much as any team in the country. We're seeing that already.
Amen. And we talked about the walk-ons. Let's talk about the scholarship players. So this will be the equivalent of tuition added to that. So now they are making money. Before they had signed a couple of deals they were going to make money. Now there's another to add it. So every player on the team is making money. If the walk-on chooses to spend it on tuition, that's great. That's up to them. But the scholarship players are now getting more and more. So it is an arms race, and BYU is competing, Blaine. That's the good news.
Yeah, and they're in a very good position to be able to do that because of the generous boosters of BYU, the generous grads that have come through this program and want to give back. There's a lot of folks out there that have businesses. Now, you think about the economy in this state right now, even on the heels. I don't know if we're on the heels. Maybe we're midfoot. Is that a better description of where we are with COVID? But even with COVID running rampant this last couple of years, this economy has flourished. And there are a lot of very generous folks, the Built Bar folks, very generous and wanting to give back. They have the means to do it. They can do it through their corporate structure. BYU is in a great position, guys. They can compete when it comes to this. They've got the generous donors. They got plenty of folks with successful businesses that want to help this program. I love this. And remember, I got a couple of kids that started out as walk-ons at BYU. This would have been unbelievable for them. And And we're not in a position where some of them are, where economically they can't even afford to come to school if they're a walk-on. This is going to help a lot of young men, and it's going to make the program better, and it's going to help recruiting in a big, big way.
Okay, Blaine, understandably, the recruiting gets a major boost. What do you think this will do for the morale of players 1 through 123 in their ability to compete and perform for their coaching staff?
It just makes a huge difference. You can focus on practice. You mentioned it, that you don't have to go out and get a job and work on the side. So you can focus on your studies and on football. I think it's huge. And so, and also the level of gratitude, like these walk-ons already go out and they just have to be special dudes, right? In any sport to walk on, it takes so much time, but especially football, to put in that amount of time with no financial remuneration at all. You have to have a special guy to do that. My sense is that this group of guys is going to be unbelievably grateful, and they'll put that much more work in. They're going to go out there and give that first and second team an unbelievable look in practice. And the more prepared they are going into games, the more success they're going to have on the field. I just think this changes the tone of everything, and I think you're going to get some output out of that walk-on group. And don't get me wrong, this was a good, dedicated group anyhow. They have to be to sign up for that nonsense, to go out there and just get beat up every day, maybe not make it out onto the field just for a dream and have to pay your own way. This is going to be a very grateful group that's going to even increase that level of commitment and play hard. I think it sends a great message to everyone on the squad. And again, I love the fact that BYU is doing something. Maybe somebody else has done something like this, but I have not heard about it. And Jeremy, I think you're right. I think BYU's leading out. It shows that they're organized, that they have a plan for this, and they're going to be on the cutting edge of what's allowable based on this NIL thing. It's going to give BYU a huge advantage.
And for those wondering what the big eyes emoji was this morning, it's this, and it's a massive impact on the program. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the quarterbacks. Yesterday, Kalani Sitake said that none of the three had really separated, but that he anticipates that will happen soon. At what point is that ideally happening so that starting quarterback can get the maximum number of number one reps?
I think, first of all, Aaron wanted to get the entire offense installed. And my understanding is that by the end of today, they will likely have all of the packages in. And now they'll make a few tweaks and add some things specific for game weeks based on the defense they're playing. But the entire offense should be in by the end of today. And so the install process, while they were doing that, Aaron's philosophy was every quarterback needs to get equal reps so we can see how they look at each of these packages. Now that you have the whole offense in, I think you start to say, and by the way, they've been grading these guys every day on every single throw. Aaron could tell you completion percentage, situational awareness, like he's got marks for everything for these guys and holding them accountable for what they're doing. So now the whole package is in. I think the quarterback competition really heats up now, and you have an opportunity to start to see some separation as the whole package is in. And so this is when it really starts. I mean, it's been ongoing, but this is when I think Aaron will start to say, okay, I'm going to give whoever it is, let's say it's Jaron, I'm going to give Jaron a few more reps with the ones now, and I'm going to give Jake some more with the two, or vice versa, right? This is when he starts to mess around with more reps here and more reps there to see who's the best fit. But most importantly, to see who's going to take care of the football, run the offense, and get the ball to this enormous group of skilled players with talent. BYU's never had more talent at the skill positions. The quarterback's job this year, take care of the ball, distribute it to the playmakers. And whoever can do that best is going to start against Arizona.